everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is Run With Me at 50 Plus, and I am Amanda. Today I am coming to you, as you can see in the description, with the 8th state that I have run a marathon in, which is Virginia. So I'm going to do a quick recap, hopefully, of that weekend. So let's start off with the apparel and the t-shirts. So we're going to start there. First off, I'm going to show you the hardware. All right, this marathon was called the Three Sisters Marathon, and it was ran in Danville, Virginia. So what they had was something called the Double Dan Challenge. And in the Double Dan Challenge, you ran the 5K on Friday evening and you did the marathon on Saturday morning. So it's going to be a few medals that I'm going to show. So first off, we're going to start with the 5K medal. This is the medal that you received on the Friday evening. Okay, that's the 5K medal. Next, this is the marathon medal. It's a little bit larger, and at the bottom it says full instead of 5K. So this is the medal. Okay, I think I may have to restart this video because my battery light is blinking, so stay tuned. Okay, I am back and we have a fully charged battery, so let's continue. So as I stated, I was showing you the marathon medal. So this is the marathon medal, and it is larger than the 5K medal, and it says full at the bottom. And for running both races or doing the Dan Double Challenge, you actually get a third medal. And this is the third medal here. It's all gold plated, very pretty, and it says Double Dan at the bottom. So those are the 3 medals that you get from this experience. And I do need this practice because I am going to be doing the Dopey Challenge, where I am going to have to run back-to-back races on multiple days. So yes, that's what we have there. So those are the actual medals. So I am going to remove them because they are a lot heavier than just one medal. I normally just keep the medal on. I'm going to remove all 3 of those. I'm going to show you the shirt. Now, this is the shirt from the marathon. So it has the large symbol that was very similar to the one in the medals. It says Three Sisters Marathon. It says full, half, and 5K. So and it's a long sleeve tee, I think because they did it in the month of September. So yeah, more to come on that. And also for doing the 5K, you actually get a t-shirt as well. And on this one, it is a long sleeve tee, but it just has the emblem right there on the left shoulder there, or left chest. It's a smaller emblem, but it's also long sleeve. So there you have it. Now that is all of the apparel and the hardware. Let's dive right in. First things first is the travel. So traveling. Danville, Virginia is about 6.5 miles away from me. However, with this race, I took a friend with me. So me and my friend actually ran this race. So I drove to her house, and then we drove from her home in Georgia to the Danville, Virginia area. Once I got to her home, it probably took us about a little over 5 hours and 10 minutes to get to the expo. So what we did was we left Friday morning, we drove straight to the expo, which is going to lead me into the expo. So this was an inaugural race, and with that being said, what that means is this is the first time this race has ever been done at this location. So we drove directly to the expo. Now in the expo, they had tables and vendors set up. It was a smaller expo. They had their expo at the YMCA, and they had vendors for your different hydrations, your salt tablets, your goos, your energy gels, your bars. They also had sock vendors. I don't remember specifically what the name of the vendors were, but they did have them. And then they had some of the local vendors. I do recall them having a vendor for the military, as well as some of their local banks and credit unions and things like that. So some of these people were also sponsors of the race. So they had all that set up. So we moseyed over to the table and we picked up our bib. So we got our bib and we received both of our t-shirts because we were gonna do the double Dan. We walked around the expo a little while longer. We went over and we took pictures. I'll try and post a picture or two here in this video. And then we left. So we left the expo, and from there, we went directly to our Airbnb. We got checked into the Airbnb. We unpacked. The Airbnb was so quaint and cute, guys. It was a tiny house. So it had, you know, self-sustaining bedroom, bathroom, kitchenette, and your sitting area. It had a back deck and a large front porch with rocking chairs. It was really peaceful, and it was kind of out there in kind of like a rural area, so it's a lot of land. Airbnb was, so that was real cool and relaxing. So that was that. We checked in and everything. Then from there we went and we found, I'm trying to recall, how did we do this? No, we actually ate on the road when we were driving there. Before we got to the expo, we stopped at Chipotle and got food. So that carried us on through to the actual 5K race that evening. So after we packed and everything, unpacked with Airbnb, we kind of chilled out a little bit, and we decided to hydrate. You know, we had our waters with our electrolytes in, and just kind of, you know, sat around the Airbnb until it was time to go back to the race. So we did go back to the race. That 5K started that evening at 7 p.m. We did the 5K, and the way they had the 5K set up was there was like a 1.5 or 1.55 mile loop down this main street and back up the other side of the main street. So that was the distance for the 5K. So that was that. And then, I mean, where they had the expo set up out there, not the expo, the race area with the finish line, the start and all that. It was a really nice area. They had, I'll post pictures here, but they had live bands. They had people just kind of sitting out. A lot of the people in the area just kind of came out to frequent the food trucks and listen to the live music, you know, just for the entertainment aspect of it. But we also did have a fairly large amount of participants that were up and down the course to cheer us on. So that's that. That is how the 5K went. It was pretty tiring because I ran pretty fast, actually. I think for me, I'll just say it that way. So I think I finished in like 31 minutes with the 5K. So that was that. After the 5K, now we were hungry because remember we had eaten earlier in the day. So now that leads me into the pre-race day dinner. Pre-race day dinner. I had already did some research before we even came to the actual area of Danville, Virginia, on where we could have our pasta dinner for the evening. So I found this place called, I think it was called Joe's or Joey and Mima's. And that is where we had our pasta dinner. So I ended up getting some pasta with red sauce and a salad and bread. And that's what I had for the evening. I'm not real sure what pasta dish my friend got. I think she did the Alfredo pasta. So we did that, we ate. By then it was getting late because I think it was probably close to like 9 p.m. So it was time for us to get back to the Airbnb so that we can prepare for the big day, the marathon. So that's what we did. Also, I forgot to mention that after the expo, we went to the Walmart. Y'all know I got my little ritual. Went to the Walmart and we picked up, bread, bananas, peanut butter and jelly, electrolytes, water. So those are the items that we received. Oh yeah, and I did grab me a large bag of Ruffles. So yeah, that was that. And so we got home after the pre-race day dinner and we prepared our gear for the next morning. Got all the gear spread out and everything so we could be ready for the next day. It's gonna lead me into the morning of the race. So pre-race day food ate for the morning of the race. It was peanut butter sandwiches, banana, and electrolytes with water, and then just regular water. So I had already prepared all of that the night before. All I had to do was grab my items out of the refrigerator, eat, get dressed, and then we headed down to the race. So here we go, marathon morning. We get down there to the race probably about 6:30. No, maybe about 6:15 because we had a little time. The race was scheduled to start at 7. So we got down there and we were able to park in the parking lot that they had designed for us to park in. And right across the way from that parking lot was a McDonald's. So we were able to use the restroom and just kind of chill out. We talked to some other racers, found out that they are runners, that they were going to be running some of our other races that we have scheduled for later in the year. So it was real cool to do that. Then by the time we got all situated, got our vehicle, walked to the starting line. So we did a bag drop because I wanted to have my flip-flops and after the run, instead of just kind of walking around to the race in the running shoes. So we dropped off our bags and then we headed to the start line. So we got to the start line probably about 5 minutes to 7. We had 5 minutes to spare. We took some videos, we took some pictures, and yeah, we just kind of stood around. 7 o'clock came and went. 7:05 came and went. 7:10 came and went. 7:15 came and went. 7:22 is when this race actually started. So there was that. It was 22 minutes starting later than it was scheduled. So I know that probably kind of took some people out of their rhythm, but that's what it was. So they started the race and we were off. We were running. Oh yeah, I did have my hydration vest on. It had my Cliff Bar in there. It had a couple of goo gels, my usual things. Electrolyte water, and then regular bladder of 1.5 liter bladder of just regular water. That's what I had on. That's what I did. So we took off and we started running. So we were running and running and running and running. And I'm trying to see, was there anything the course was rolling hills. I mean, I think someone had mentioned that it was supposed to be a flat, fast course. It was totally different. Also, with that, the race temperatures were like 75 when we started, but the humidity was 90%. 90%. So I already knew that was going to be an issue. I did not have my sunglasses, but I did have my sun visor. So I was glad to have that. So we're running. The water stations and the aid stations were pretty good. The participant or supporters, there were a few along the course, but not as many as I've seen in other races. Remember, this was an inaugural race, so they're testing things out, trying things and all that. So we get on down the course. then we ran into this group that was giving away cold towels. I thought that was a godsend. They were soaked in cold water, so I grabbed one of those and wrapped it around my neck because by now, this is probably like mile 10, 11, we're into the race. It's probably about 80 degrees now with still that same humidity. So I was glad to get that, and then I was, utilizing the nutrition in my vest as well as taking the water and the Gatorade from the aid stations, just kind of mixing it up. So ran on down. We crossed a nice bridge where there was a dam. I took some video of that. We ran into another group that were giving more towels, so I gave them my then warm towel and received another towel that was cool. So those were really helping along the course. So we kept running. It was really not a whole lot of issues, but a whole lot of hills, rolling up and down, up and down. So by the time I got to like mile 22, we had about 4 miles left. We still had rolling hills and everything, and then we were running into participants that were giving us more cold towels, which is, like I said, really good. And, different, I think I got some mandarin oranges along the course, so like I said, it wasn't as many participants along the course, but there were a few that were there and had their aid station set up, which was great. So from there, I do recall get to mile 22. From like mile 22, 23, all the way to the finishing line, it was an incline. No rolling hills, like 2 to 3 miles of straight incline. Just think about that. You're already tired. You're 23 miles into a race, and the last remaining portion is straight up. Oh my gosh, it was something. But I actually ended up, I didn't have too much left in me. I ended up walking those last 3 miles because it was a lot. It was a lot. I tried to kind of pick up and trot a little bit, but just didn't have it in me. So by the time I got to like half a mile out, it's probably like 0.7 mile out, we crossed that McDonald's again in the park where the parking lot was. And they were giving out ice cold water. They literally had like this is McDonald's giving out the water. They had the McDonald's cups full of ice water. That was so lovely and refreshing. I was so glad to see that, because normally toward the end of the race I try to pick it up so I can run on into the finish line, but for this one, when I saw those individuals out there with the ice cold water, I had to stop. I was like, oh my gosh, and it actually has ice in it. And they were like, yes, it does. And so I took the ice water and I was like, okay, I'm definitely not about to run. I'm about to enjoy this cup of good cold ice water. So I did that, and I drank probably about half of it. I crunched on some of the ice, and then I just kind of threw the rest away. And maybe like the last quarter of a mile, I was able to kind of pick up and start back jogging again, and I jogged into the finish line. And this was a tough course. There were several people that they had to sweep off the course because they did not, were not going to make the time. And so that was that, but I was able to finish in 5 hours and 19 minutes, and I think the course was slated for a 6-hour limit. But I think they also are going to have to go back and kind of revisit how they structured everything, because they did start 22 minutes late, but they were saying that they had a strict cutoff time for 1 p.m. So I was thinking, okay, that's technically not a full 6 hours, but hopefully, they go back and they take the runners' suggestions into account for next year so that they can better those areas. But other than that, as I waited on my friend to come in, I went straight to this snow cone machine after getting my 3 medals and taking my picture at the finish line. Went to this snow cone truck and I got this snow cone. I hope I have that picture, and sat right down there on the ground right next to it and just enjoyed that snow cone until I was able to reconnect with my friend. And that is really how this race ended. Once I connected with her, I went to the drop bag area, picked up my bag first, and then I went over to the area and got the snow cone. But anyway, after that, we were able to walk back to our vehicle. And what did we do after that? Oh yeah, we had so much pasta left. So for after race day dinner and activities, we actually just went back and enjoyed our food that we had left over at the Airbnb. Chilled out at the Airbnb for the evening because it was Saturday, so it's a football day. I'm an Alabama Roll Tide, Crimson Tide fan, so I just kind of chilled, took a shower, chilled the rest of the evening, enjoyed the Airbnb, the sights around that area, and watched football, ate my food, and chilled out. And so after that, we stayed that night, and we got up the next morning and we drove back home. So we drove back to her home. I picked up my vehicle from her home and I drove to my house. And that is pretty much how the weekend ended in a nutshell. Everything was pretty good. Like I said, there were a few hiccups with the race, and we did send emails to the race director, just for awareness so that they can, know how runners were feeling during the race and our suggestions for next year. But that is really all I have for this video. I know it's went a little long because I did have, really in a nutshell, 2 races to recap. So that is how State 8 went, Danville, Virginia, the Three Sisters Inaugural Marathon. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. Also, leave me a comment. Let me know if you're on a marathon journey, if you're running, if you're just getting started, if you are an old head and you've done 100 marathons. Just leave me a comment below and let me know, and also encourage others that are in this community. I'm trying to grow this channel so that we can have some information out there for those who's looking to get into running. And I will end this video right here. I will see you in the next one. Peace.